Welcome, everyone. We are here today joining staff in this great webinar. I'm Leila, one of the campaign managers here at Birchal. And just before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land I'm based on today. Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. In case you're new to crowdfunding, I would love to quickly explain how it works and who is Birchal in the process. Then I'm going to hand over to Hunter. Hunter, can you just go to the next slide? Thank you. Equity crowdfunding is a new form of funding for startups. Essentially, it allows Australian startups and small businesses that are private or public unlisted to raise capital from a large number of retail, wholesale, and sophisticated investors. Birchal's financial service is the licensed platform to host this offer, and at Birchal, our mission is to simplify fundraising to companies and give communities of customers like you and me the opportunity to invest in companies that you love. We are Australia's largest platform with over 200,000 members, and we already hosted more than 200 successful campaigns. If you have any questions about Birchal, please send them over in the chat, and I'm going to be answering you live. Also, I do want to mention that the information discussed here today is for informational purpose only and should not be considered as advice or as a recommendation to invest. Please do your own research and always consider the offer document and the general risk warning before you go ahead and invest. Hunter, if you go to the next slide, I'm just going to quickly explain the difference between the EOI and the offer. If you're here today, it's probably because you expressed interest. If you didn't, please go ahead now. But yes, we are in the EOI phase, which means that the company is spreading the word, assessing market interest, and building a wait list of investors. Next Tuesday, the 15th, we're opening the offer and start accepting investment. The first 48 hours is going to be exclusive for investors in the EOI phase. We're going to have early access, and then we're going to open the offer to the general public. Today, we're going to learn a little bit more about the company from the founders, but we're going to have full access to the whole information when the offer is live next week, such as the minimum and maximum target, the company's valuation, their financials, and much, much more. Now, how today's session is going to run. Hunter is going to take us through a presentation, and then we're going to switch to a Q&A session. If you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can see a little Q&A box. Just go ahead, put your questions down there, and we're going to be answering at the end. Lastly, we're recording today's session, so if you have to jump off early, a recording will be sent around. That's it. That's quite a lot from me, but now we're going to be talking to Hunter.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Leila. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's tuning in. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day. And thanks so much for your interest in stuff. It's been incredibly humbling and inspiring, actually, just to see the amount of people that have expressed interest in what we're doing, ranging from a variety of different walks of life, from like really sophisticated investors who this is what they do as their bread and butter, all the way to our customers, to people who are really drawn to our purpose. It's been incredible. And yeah, I also just want to acknowledge the traditional land I'm on, and just say thank you to the First Nations cultures that have been custodians of this land, and also just extend that to each of you. Just want to acknowledge your stories and your journeys that's brought you to this moment, to be with me right here as we get to spend the next little moment to talk about stuff, which is a really exciting opportunity. And I'm excited to share more about our growth, our traction, the market opportunity. And yeah, just to reiterate what Leila said, is that there'll be an offer document that'll come to you after this, that'll have, you know, much more comprehensive information about the financials and the kind of the inner workings of the business. So just know that is coming your way. But to kick us off, I'm super proud to say we are Australia's fastest growing men's grooming brand, which is awesome. The space has been so sterile for so long. Some of you may have noticed. dominated by big outdated conglomerates. And we've seen so much innovation particularly in the female space, but the men's space has really remained stagnant for such a long time. And that's what we're really looking to disrupt through this business. As you can see through old mate Serge on the front cover there, we really wanted to kind of bring some fun and some vibrancy into this space that, again, has just been super outdated. So where did all this begin? I started running a charity, about 9 years ago, called the Man Cave. Some of you may have heard of it. If you haven't, effectively what we do is we run mental health programs and emotional intelligence programs and consent education programs with teenage boys in Australian high schools. We're now in about 200 high schools. We work with about 50,000 teenage boys. And for those of you who are familiar with whether it's mental health or gender-based violence, so much of the systems we have to deal with those issues are very much geared around crisis management. So we wait till something goes wrong, we throw money at a symptom. My whole belief through my lived experience is that we have to go positive and we have to go preventative. And we really want to focus on boys' strengths rather than their deficits, and really create a positive future state for men, one that's inspiring for all people. And whilst running these programs, we just saw that boys were surrounded by brands that didn't represent them, didn't represent our mates, didn't represent our dads or our grandfathers. We saw this white space challenger brand opportunity that we were really excited to explore. And I've been very lucky. Man Cave is a charity, so largely funded by donations. And early days, we had some amazing supporters who worked at some of the biggest fast-moving consumer goods or cosmetic brands in the country. So I was lucky to spend time with the founder of Mecca, but also the founder of CEO of Aesop, and just kind of flex out some of this thinking going, I think there's a massive opportunity to create a brand targeted at men that had purpose at heart, that could really represent what I would say is modern masculinity. What do you think? And they were very complimentary to my naivety and my entrepreneurial mindset. But basically what they said is brands have changed. Sorry, men have changed, brands haven't. If you can crack this, there is much, much lucrative space, not just in Australia, but globally too. And that was where stuff really came into inception about 3 years ago as an idea. And we've been running for really the last 2 years as we've kicked off into the Australian market. So I see this as a really unique opportunity that is not just a commercial opportunity, which it absolutely is, but also, which I'll explain in just a moment, it's a fantastic opportunity to support the next generation of young men coming through. So joining our major shareholder, what I mean by that is Man Cave, the charity, which I founded, is one of the largest shareholders of Stuff. We've worked with over 50,000 young men. We partner with groups like the Australian government, the Royal Family, the United Nations, and of course, Stuff. Nice to have Stuff next to those names. And really, the interesting play for us is twofold. One, as I mentioned, this is a commercial business. We have to be really effective in how we run our business to ensure that we bring a return to you, our shareholders, but also one of those shareholders is the Man Cave. How we support the Man Cave is if Stuff at a future timeline in, say, 3 to 5 years has the opportunity for a strategic partnership, acquisition, or exit, the shareholders, like yourself, will get a kickback, but so will Man Cave, which will allow the charity to be funded into perpetuity, which is a really innovative model. We've also put in that for every $1,000 in sales, it'll fund a boy from a low socioeconomic community to go through Man Cave's programs. So that really makes it accessible to the consumer, that if they buy Stuff, it helps a boy go through a program. And one of the things that I always say is, whilst we're focusing on young men's mental health, that's just not good for them. That's good for their relationships. That's good for their families. That's good for their communities. And yeah, through this work, I've been very, very lucky to meet some extraordinary parents and people who really are now starting to buy Stuff so boys can go through Man Cave's programs, which is really exciting. And the other really unique thing is that Man Cave is working with thousands of boys every single week. So we know what they're thinking, feeling, believing, what influences them, what doesn't, what brands they want next. And we've crap tested our Stuff products with hundreds of young men, whether it's with pizza parties or if a slightly older demographic. We've taken Stuff into pubs where we've ran mental health nights where they've got to check in about how they're going. And then we talk to them about Stuff. So we've really tried to co-create our brand, our positioning, and our products in alignment with men and young men coming through. So what's going on in the market? Some of you may have seen some pretty incredible market deals going on in Australia at the moment. What we've seen in particular is earlier this year, ESOP was acquired by L'Oreal for 3.7 billion, which is quite an extraordinary number to say out loud. Just about a week ago, we saw Bondi Sands was acquired by a Japanese group for 450 million. We've also seen groups like, or individuals like Brett Blundy. So Brett Blundy is a retail, I don't know if I can say this, a retail savant. He knows what's going on in the sector. He has effectively created what he wants to be like a men's version of Sephora called Above the Collar, and they're going to now roll out retail stores across the country targeted at the male customer. And the reason they're doing this is because the beauty and the personal care market is really starting to explode. We're starting to see a 9.1% category growth over the next 8 years or 7 years. In saying that, we know that men, as well as taking better care of themselves on the inside with their mental health, are really starting to take more care of themselves on the outside. The market opportunity is that men spend $7 billion each year on their personal care. But then if we grow and look at a global market, particularly at our international friends over in the US and the UK and other Western countries, it is a very big and very fast growing market. $115 billion, they say, is the market cap by 2028. And the really interesting statistic is we're now starting to see the younger generations starting to really prioritize their taking care of themselves from a product point of view. So they're more than ever, which I think is coming with the shifts in masculinity, mental health. We're starting to see that men are feeling more comfortable to prioritize their self-care, as I said, from a mental health perspective, but also a product perspective. You know, they want to look good, they want to feel good, and there's more permission from society for them to do that, which is very different to generations gone by. And the other thing I'll say inside of this, which isn't captured in this statistic, is that we know that particularly the younger generation, if they're given a choice of choosing a product that is just a standard product or a product that has social or environmental causes behind it, 9 out of 10 of them will choose a product that has a purpose. And some of the interesting data that's coming out of Unilever in particular is that their brands that are sustainability or purpose focused are growing 50% faster than their other brands. And we're really starting to see consumer trends of people starting to vote with their wallets around what their values are. Now that we're having, I think the chasm is being crossed around choosing products that are both good and actually work, but also good for the planet at the same time. And that's really what we're trying to crack as our sweet spot for stuff. So just to talk to the problem, maybe some of you may giggle remembering back to the old Lynx Africa ads or the old Spice ads. But if we think about it, you know, these are the subtle messaging that starts to impact our belief systems. You know, another ad that's separate to this one here is that we see the ad where the guy's on the beach, he's spraying himself, and then a flock of gorgeous women come chasing him. And it's really starting to lace in really subtle objectification towards women around how men should behave and how women should behave. And we just thought, well, like, why are we allowing this to be? And the ads actually get a lot more intense than this. All you need to do is chuck into Google Lynx advertisements, and it's pretty confronting what you can see. But again, really interesting to see the statistics here around the unhealthy stereotypes that are now starting to impact young men's belief systems and their worldview and how they hold themselves. And just to speak to the statistics now, which is pretty confronting, and we see this through our work at Man Cave, is that 1 in 5 young men is likely to experience a mental illness before they're 18, but suicide is the leading cause of death for young men between the age of 15 and 44. So it's not drink driving, it's not overdosing on drugs, it's actually themselves. And what we also know is there's a huge opportunity to create brands that create positive sentiments, positive role models that demonstrate different ways of being through great shifts in consumer behavior. So we know consumer brands influence attitudes and behavior. And again, we see that perpetuate pretty outdated stereotypes of masculinity, which for us creates a huge opportunity, particularly in a world that's post-Me Too, where, you know, we've had Donald Trump, we've had Harvey Weinstein, we've had the Me Too movement. It's a really tricky and treacherous terrain for many men at the moment, and not many positive role models or brands that are able to walk that tightrope, but also just focus on what's great about men, the positive narrative. Secondly, This is really interesting research coming out of the Unstereotype Alliance, which is a partnership with the United Nations. They say that brands portraying healthy, what they call as healthy masculinity, which is just basically a buzzword that comes out of the phrase of toxic masculinity. You create toxic masculinity, it creates healthy masculinity. Really what they're seeing is that brands portray positive, healthy, masculine role models through their advertisements are significantly outperforming the brands that are stuck in the past. And the other thing for us as an opportunity is that there are literally no other purpose-driven brands in mass markets targeted towards the male consumer in our category. And when I say purpose, I don't really mean the brands that I would say are like virtue signaling or greenwashing or pretending that they're giving away. We know that consumers are getting even more savvy, and they're checking out brands from both a product efficacy, a purpose, understanding what their actual social impact is in communities. And the fact that we've designed stuff to have Man Cave infused into its DNA as the large shareholder, but also have the funding turning over for every $1,000 in sales, really sets us apart. And some of the conversations I've had with some of the big conglomerates is basically they say we can create a deodorant brand or a skincare brand overnight. What we can't replicate is the story and the narrative of what you've created. And through my work, I've been very, very lucky to receive an award from the royal family, to meet the Queen before she passed away in Buckingham Palace. I was also nominated for Young Australian of the Year and on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, which I don't really talk about often, but the reason I'm bringing it in now is because it is all part of the authenticity of our narrative. And the thing about authenticity is that big conglomerates can't manufacture it. It remains true. And so that's something which I really see as something that makes us stand apart. So this is us. G'day, meet stuff. Everything from the name to the product formulations to how we present ourselves. We wanted stuff to be really authentic, but also simple. The world is complicated enough. We know for guys, there are a couple of things that they like. If they're like me, you want your products to be functional. You want them to work. You want them to be at a price point that actually is achievable for you and not too out there. You also want them to be accessible, so easy access. But also, you can't take yourself too seriously. This isn't like this is the most important thing in the world. This is how we take care of ourselves. And that's part of many, many ways we express ourselves as a human. So a bit of banter, vibrancy, and play is really important. And just to speak to some of our unique selling propositions, we're Aussie born and bred. We have local manufacturers in 3 contract manufacturers in across the east coast of Australia. We're a B Corp. So if you haven't heard of what a B Corp is, it's the highest certification of social and environmental responsibility a business can have. It's very hard to get. It took us about 9 months. We're really focused on clean and natural ingredients. So we use the best of nature and science. One of our amazing investors and advisors is someone who I have a lot of respect for, Dr. Kate Forbes, who was part of ESOP for about 20 years as the head of product and innovation. She's really worked with us to use a great ingredient portfolio that matches up for the male customer, which we have different skin to others, but also to make it at a price point that's really accessible, as I said. So part of that, we're vegan and cruelty-free. And also we use often what you'll see some of these people on this on the page here are some of our Man Cave facilitators. So these are the people who are running programs in high schools on the front line with teenage boys. And of course, using that as the next segue is when you buy stuff, it helps the next generation of young men coming through who are, moving through a very, very confusing time for masculinity. And again, we want to be that positive light to support them through this new era of masculinity. So I talked about our kind of insights before, but really it is our superpower. We know what they think, feel, believe, who influences them, who doesn't, what products they want next. And then also it's a great opportunity for us to meet with the next generation and actually understand what's next for masculinity and how do we work with them to co-create products. We also will be sampling Stuff products to Man Cave participants over the second half of this year. And every time we run a program that is funded by Stuff, we send in a film crew to really get the storytelling going. And it's incredibly profound, to see young men saying, this literally changed my life, this program. And shout out, thank you so much, stuff. So this is something, again, which is a really unique value proposition that we bring, and something which we hold very dearly to our hearts, as well as being very responsible and ethical with too. So meet the fam. So we currently have these SKUs right here in front of us. So we've got 2 head and body washes. We've got a face wash, a moisturizer, an exfoliating face scrub, a shave gel, an SPF 50+ face lotion, and 2 natural deodorants. We've really tried to price these at an affordable price point. As you can see, about $9 for the deos, and then about $20 is the cap for the SPS face lotion. There's not many products that are particularly face lotion or SPF focused towards men, and this is really at a price point that we find quite accessible. We've also worked with some custom chemists, so the best chemists in the country, to work on both our ingredients and our scents. So we have 3 different scents, one which is fresh, so it's kind of like the morning scent, which is focused on spearmint and pine. Then I like saying this, nice and spicy, which is a mix of cedarwood and spice. So yeah, something probably for a little bit later in the day, or if you're going out at night. Then we also have another scent in development, which is around really kind of tapping into mindfulness. And so we call this Super Calm, which has lavender, rosemary, and patchouli. And we've got some amazing products in development. I don't want to get too specific there, as we've seen on the list of who's attending, that a number of our competitors have very conveniently signed up for this webinar, but just know that we're using the latest data to really indicate what are the market trends and where can we really, as a challenger brand, take the best opportunity in front of us to inform the next products we roll through in terms of our new product development. So just to talk to our growth story, we're pretty young in the scheme of things, but we're growing fast. So if we look at this map, really the way to think about 2021 is that was kind of our test and learn year. It was like, what's resonating, what's not, how do we find our voice? And then once we lock that in, we've really grown quite exponentially over the last 12 months. So if I just go from left to right, we've gone from launching our first initial SKUs, then after a few months, launching into the Iconic, which was a real good achievement for us. We then became a B Corp. One of the things as a challenger brand, you always think about how you can compete strategically. And for me, that was very fortunate through my networks, is working in the man cave world and now the stuff world, is being able to meet some extraordinary people. And one of the skills I've honed is how to have authentic and honest and vulnerable conversations with people. And so I've really tried to channel that strength through our podcast, which I'll talk to in just a moment. Things got really out of hand and very exciting when we locked in the incredible Ian Thorpe, an Australian icon for many, many reasons, but also a massive, massive advocate for men's mental health. Thorpe came on as an investor and an ambassador for us, which has been a huge value add. That saw us then grow into Shaver Shop. So again, really tried to target the kind of the male channels there. There's about 115 Shaver Shop stores across Australia and New Zealand. We then, after just about a year, launched into Woolworths. So this was a real big opportunity for us. It's kind of unheard of for a brand after 12 months, particularly in our category, to launch into Woolworths. We've now spent some time with Woolworths. Things are going well, which I'm really excited to share. And through that, again, we saw a huge opportunity in the space to launch some new products. And that's where our face scrub, our face wash, and our SPF came in. We also saw a huge opportunity inside of the independent pharmacy and grocery channels. So, the AMCALs, the Terry White Chemists, the IGAs, there's hundreds there. And it's something which we're excited that we're in a couple hundred independent pharmacy and grocers now. And then for us, getting into Priceline was also massive. So Priceline obviously has about 400 stores across the country. They say that in our space, if you think about like the big four, you've got Woolworths, you've got Coles, you've then got Priceline, and you've got Chemist Warehouse. The way I like to think about this, if you can get one, that's great. If you can get two from the different areas pumping, that's awesome. If you can get all four, that's like the grand slam. But really, it's about intelligently sequencing our growth, because once you get those channels, you really need to service them and do it well and earn the customer and the loyalty of the customer. The great thing as well is that Priceline is, largely attended by the female demographic, and it's really seen as a great gifting space. So I'll talk to that in just a moment as well. That also saw us then move into hiring our first national sales team, which allows us to really get kind of boots on the ground, meeting with all the different retailers that we have relationships with. And then Sephora, which was something which actually came to us in 2022, and really uniquely, they knocked on our door, and it took us about a few months to kind of go through the global system that is Sephora. They obviously have a massive, massive presence globally, to go through all the paperwork and whatnot. But for us to launch into Sephora really showed what I would say is like the diversity of the brand, that we can play in the mass market channels, but we also have the ability to be premium. And so that's, again, appealing to the probably I'd say the gifting market. So we now sell through Sephora, and that's something which I think will be a really unique partnership for us to grow. And, you know, as is summarized in that bottom right corner there, for us to go from 1 to 1,600 points of sale within the first 12 months is a cracking start to have exploded onto shelves. And we're really excited to leverage that as we keep growing, hopefully with your support. So what is the market opportunity in front of us? Listen, the way to think about this is there's 4 channels. You've got your grocery, your pharmacy, your big box retail, and then your specialty retail. We're now in Woolworths, as I've said, and IGAs. We have a great relationship with Coles, and that's they do about an annual. So just to put this in context, the big retailers do about an annual range review. So we're gearing up for the Coles range review, and then secondly, the Aldi range review coming up as well. Then to look just to the next is into pharmacy. So we're obviously in Priceline, we're in Amcal, we're in Terry White. Chemist Warehouse is also someone who we've been in conversations with, and we're really excited to continue that relationship. I was actually speaking to Jack Gant, their CEO, around what it would look like for stuff. And yeah, we're really excited to keep progressing that relationship as we grow up. We've also, which I didn't include on the other slide there, if I jump down to big box retail, we've just signed a contract with Big W, which is really exciting. So there's a big opportunity in big box retail for us to continue growing with Big W, but then to leverage that into Kmart and Target too. And then finally into specialty retail. So we're obviously already in Shaver Shop and Sephora, but we have great relationships across Mecca, as well as David Jones, Maya, and Adore Beauty. And so for us, it's around getting the right split where we can see the most volume to move our product, but also to match where our key buyer will be. And we're starting to see, it used to be that the female buyer was one who would often buy the men, but we're now starting to see a real shift where men are starting to take more responsibility in that category and buy for themselves too. So it's important for us to have a presence where men are themselves, so that whole philosophy of meet them where they're at, but secondly, to also appeal to whoever the main grocery household buyer is at the same time. So we've had a cracking start, as I've said, just in 1 year. So Woolworths and Priceline in the first year is unheard of, but it's also, yeah, again, really unique to have the premium channel with Sephora. This has meant that we're now the fastest growing men's grooming brand in Australia in grocery and pharmacy. And that means we're selling faster than some of the big multinational brands, which I'll talk to in just a moment. And yeah, it was exciting. There was a bit of press about this recently, but we are the only Australian men's brand stocked by Sephora, which gained a lot of attention, and yeah, really humbling for the hard work and the blood, sweat and tears of the team. And just to give you an insight into who our customers are, so 41% of them are younger households, so families, couples or singles. 43.5% are stuff consumers, are premium shoppers. So that's really interesting just to see that those who have a slightly more affluent budget are really drawn to us, but also the price point is really designed for us to be accessible to all people, from irrespective of your socioeconomic background. And 40% of our shoppers, as I'm just talking to now, are from the mainstream category. And as you can see by Ian Thorpe on the right-hand side there, our goal is to become the world's #1 purpose-led men's grooming brand. We've had great interest from overseas. My philosophy inside of this is we really got to earn the right and win on our home turf first, and then that opens up the conversation for overseas expansion. But right now, the team's major focus is getting Australia pumping. That then opens up opportunities for other international expansion. So just to give you some positioning of where stuff fits, you can see three categories there inside the competition side of this slide. We've got health-focused brands, we've got the youthful male brands, and then we've got quality performance brands. We've really tried to situate stuff right in the middle of all of those brands, in that we do use great ingredients, the best of nature and science. We can be playful and aspirational to the younger male demographic, although we're still definitely used by older men as well. And we really focus on quality performance. One of the lessons I learned very early on when I did a bit of a road trip around meeting who's done this before and how did they do it, was that good marketing just helps a bad product fail faster. So the product has to be outstanding, and we can't rely on the fact that we have a social purpose. That might be a great retention strategy, but the acquisition strategy, the product has to stand out on shelf, the brand has to be strong, and it's got to be a phenomenal product so that people can come back as returning customers. And as I said, the retention strategy can be the fact that it is a social impact brand at the end of the day too. We've obviously seen massive success across other channels like Who Gives a Crap toilet paper or Thank You hand wash. But again, white space opportunity for men, the men's category. And part of that, for us in that white space category is that we're now in the top 5 brands for men at Woolies, outselling Dove, Sukin, and Swiss, and the other names you can read there. And yeah, in just the 12 months we've been in, we've sold 145,000 products since launching, and we're just getting started. So you may have seen us around. Some of you may have seen some street posters or in the media recently over the last couple of weeks. We've got some great attention, which is, very humbling and rewarding to see. But we were in the AFR, so the Fin Review, about 10 days ago. 2 days ago, we were in the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. We've also been in GQ, amongst others. The podcast itself has generated its own kind of unique loyalty for customers to come through. We've been on Sunrise, and then really targeting I'll say other people's podcasts that speak to the particular demographic. Some of you may be familiar with Dill and Friends, which is one of the largest podcasts for the male demographic. I've been on that a number of times, but Stuff also sponsors that. And then for my own personal podcast, I've been really lucky to have everyone from the Wallabies captain, Michael Hooper, to the CEO of Woolworths, Brad Banducci, to one of the most effective venture capitalists in the country, Paul Bassett, who's also an investor in Stuff. He is the co-founder of Square Peg Capital. But alongside that too, I've also sat down with gender equality experts like Yasmin Poole or Holly Ransom to really show the diversity and the breadth of the brand. And that's a great way for us to kind of take control of our customer base and really start to develop more loyalty, as well as educate them on both the product and the purpose behind what we do. So what are the use of funds? So we're obviously out crowdfunding at the moment, which is awesome. We've done some, what I would say, equity investment before with high net worth investors, family offices. But we really saw, given the purpose-driven nature of this brand, that we wanted to activate our customers, our friends, our family, those who are connected to the purpose, but also sophisticated investors who we hadn't had access to. And specifically, this equity crowdfunding campaign for us will go towards these 6 categories. So new product development focused on, in Australia, the domestic market, also expanding our inventory. So we will always want to ensure we have a minimum of 12 weeks stock on hand. Again, really focused on the Australian market. I'm really excited about the trade marketing aspect. The way I think about this is that we've got really strong distribution after being a short amount of time alive. But I'm excited for the retail activations, the brand activations, the storytelling, for us to really become an iconic Australian brand. The good thing about becoming an iconic Australian brand, amongst many things, is that it means that we have a strong international presence. So the Australian ethos, our pedigree, the way we do brand, the way we do product is really well respected in overseas markets. And that's what we want to look to after we ensure that we take care of servicing Australia is setting ourselves up to get the right inventory and accreditations through the gate for new product development for international markets, as well as managing our inventory too, and then subsequently ensuring that our website and our digital presence remains strong. So at current, and I'll talk to this in just a moment, we have about 15% of our revenue comes from direct to consumer, and about what's the other side of 15%? 85% of our revenue comes from retail. So ensuring that we can still have that engine churning with our own customers online, but in Australia, a huge volume, particularly for the male demographic, comes through the large retail channels. So just to summarize that, I've given you all a lot of information, but yeah, just remember that there is an offer document coming your way very shortly, and we'll just open up for questions after this too. But I'll speak to these categories really, really succinctly. We're a top 5 brand in Woolworths after just 9 months. We've ranged into Woolies and Priceline in the first year, as well as 1,600 retail stores. We're really the only brand that is really going at disrupting this category, particularly with a purpose lens. I think it's a really important time. If I just speak to you all as human beings, not just investors, we really need to invest in the next generation of young men, because it's not just good for them, it's good for their relationships. And this just happens to be a really strong commercial opportunity on top of it. I mentioned alongside Man Cave, we're a B Corp, which is the highest certification of social and environmental responsibility a business can have. Consumers are getting much more savvy about this, and it's a really respected accreditation. I mentioned the channel breakdown of 84% and 16% for retail versus D2C. Our product categories that we are playing in and will likely stay in, we really want to keep it as men's grooming essentials, is in the face, body, deodorant, and sun care category. We have a really strong presence in Australia. As you can see, I've mentioned those names just before, but a mixture of retail and online. Our formulations we've developed with experts, the best chemists in the country, to ensure that they're really strong, but also at affordable price points. Our NPD, again, I'm just conscious not giving away too much gold, but just know that it's going to be data-led and really disrupt what hasn't been disrupted in a while. I may just say it as a little hint, it smells like teen spirit. I'll leave that with you. And through our work, we often help Man Cave continue to grow into the communities that need it most. And the bit which I haven't really touched on is my role has really been to surround myself with people who have done this before. So I've been fortunate, and some of you may have seen on the Birchal website, but our team have worked in some of the best and most respected consumer brands in Australia, from Aesop to Mecca to Thank You to T2 to Unilever, to LVMH, and my role is just to really find people with a specific lived experience, professional lived experience of who's done this before, to allow us to grow and to grow really strategically. So final thing I'll say is, massive white space for someone to do this. It takes a lot to get to where we've got to in the time we've got. And we're now really excited with this latest injection of funds to continue growing and become an iconic Australian brand, as well as present a really positive narrative for masculinity. And so, as I said, this is our purpose. We really want to not be too woke, not be too progressive, but really be a values-led company that appeals to not just men, but to people who are surround men, so women or non-binary people too. Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, I'm really happy to answer any questions. There's my contact details if you need anything. And yeah, thanks so much. And Leila, I might just throw it over to you.
Thank you, Hunter. That was great. Actually, no one dropped off. So you're doing a good job. We clearly can see that you're passionate about what you do, which is awesome. And I just want to tell investors that this is a trait that is very consistent throughout the entire team. It's been a pleasure to work with Jack, Steve, and Michaela too. They're great operators. Are we ready for the Q&A? We had some really good questions coming up. The first question is, Hunter, where do you manufacture your products?
Yeah, great question. So we have 3 contract manufacturers who we've used for about anywhere from about 3 years to about 9 months now. So they are across the east coast of Australia, 2 in Melbourne and 1 up just near Brisbane.
Oh. Posed and a really good question, but it's quite long, so I'm going to break it down so you can answer that in parts. The first is that he's saying that the social responsibility positioning is excellent, but in terms of the product itself, what is the main differentiation point from the other ones in the shelf?
Yeah, great question. So as a challenger brand, it's really about thinking about where we can compete. And so one of the ways, as you're alluding to, is the positioning. So that's something which we really take very seriously as a point of difference, particularly as our consumers grow up with us. And again, from a product ingredient point of view, we've really tried to use native and natural ingredients. So as you'll see throughout what we've included, we've working with everything from patchouli to lavender to other cedarwood and the spice ingredients to ensure that they both are representative of where we come from, but also represent what I would say is the Australiano brand effect of what we do. This is something which I'm excited to keep exploring, and just to kind of, I guess, something which we're thinking through at the moment, and without, again, giving too much away, is I've been looking very closely at Indigenous-led native botanical businesses to work out how we can ensure that the values alignment stays consistent throughout. And also in our category, just to be really straight, is like we see this as a real brand opportunity opposed to just a product innovation opportunity. This is absolutely, as men are very brand loyal, we want to ensure that we stick with them with products that from an ingredient point of view work, and they keep coming back to us. So it stays strong, but yeah, this is really a brand opportunity for us.
That's an interesting point because with women, we try different products. We want to kind of see what is new in the market. And with men, I don't think there's a trait that they have. They're pretty loyal with a brand. Good point. The second part of his question was about expansion plans from the marketing point of view. So he mentioned who gives a crap and thank you that done well from the corporate integrations that kind of allow businesses to take the responsibility quotas. And he's asking if you're confident that there is enough opportunity in the private households alone to grow.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, let me just feel through that. So what I come back to is there's still wide open space in the male personal care category. I think we see, if you look at just because you use them examples, toilet paper obviously hadn't been disrupted with anything really unique ever. What they managed to do was cross the chasm of I'm embarrassed to walk out of the shop with toilet paper to now I'm proud to have that product on display. Thank you, same concept. You know, often you see bathrooms either have ESOP, or if they don't, they may have thank you product there too. Again, it's an opportunity to display values in households. Our goal is to be in 2 million households over the next 2 years. And one of the ways which we look to do that is positioning ourselves as the everyday use products of Australian men, which again, coming back to our new product development pipeline, is really looking at what are the products that men are using every single day and how do we position ourselves that they are comfortable to both show that product, but also use that product. And that's really what we're backing in as our hypothesis, that we can really do that. Also keeping in mind, you know, I kind of mentioned it before, but Man Cave will be putting many cans in hands through our programs that really allow, again, that brand loyalty to be developed for the next generation of customers too.
Cool. Holly asked a question about any thoughts on developing refill-based products to reduce waste, similar to what Zero Co has done, but with, cleaning products.
Yeah, great question. I'm definitely thinking about that. It's really interesting, you know, if I kind of speak pretty frankly about it too, what we've seen is the data shows that many people like the idea of it, but the actual execution of sending in your used products or the refillable isn't as high as what people think, which I found very interesting to look at. But I'm of the generation that we need to create products that can do everything we can to create a better world. For us, it's just about sequencing how we move into that, because it is somewhat of a new product development opportunity, I'll say that much, but it's something which we are absolutely looking at as to how do we make the biggest impact on the planet that we can. And I think about that from, you know, again, just being a human being talking to you, I think about what's the world I'm giving to my grandkids. And that's something which is really important to me to, shift the behaviors of consumers, like in moments like this.
Love that. A few investors are asking about the team. So who else is working on stuff apart from you?
Yeah, great question. I kind of briefly mentioned it, but we keep the team pretty lean intentionally, particularly at this early stage. They may be a bit embarrassed as I think they'll be on the call, but our general manager is exceptional, Michaela. Her background is ex-marketing director of ESOP, also worked at LVMH beforehand, also has 3 boys under the age of 6 years old. So from a values perspective, but also, a category experience perspective, Michaela is fantastic. There's Michaela. We also have Stephen, who's our COO, who has over 12 years of beauty experience. Previously at Total Beauty Network, grew 4 brands into 35 different countries in international markets. One of those products in particular, just to call that out, overtook Revlon as the #1 SKU. Stephen has great experience from both growing a product, managing supply chains, but also, experiencing growing a business that was a very similar life stage to Stuff at the same time. And then we also have Jack, who is our marketing manager. Jack was the global marketing manager of Sukin, a brand which many of you may be familiar with. He would also launch Sukin Men. Fantastic experience in the space. And then we have a team of contractors around us. Again, someone working in supply chain that worked at ESOP in supply chain. And we have a fantastic board as well. So our board members have been, just to kind of call out a few, that, again, they'll probably be embarrassed, but former global CEO of T2, who supported the exit to Unilever, former head of strategy of APAC for Afterpay, to seasoned investors who work with a number of consumer goods products, to a fantastic chair who has been with me on the Man Cave journey for a very long time, and so acts as a really strong mentor, supporter, and advisor, as well as very senior experience at NAB on the executive team. We also have fantastic advisors who have grown, who are part of the Swiss journey into the $1 billion exit into China, as well as I mentioned Dr. Kate Forbes too, who was the former head of product and innovation at ESOP for 20 years. So I've really tried to, as I said, map the team to complement my skill set, and then, really get everyone flying in formation, which made me think of the saying from the Mighty Ducks, which I probably never thought I'd say on an investor webinar, but we need to, get everyone moving in the right direction.
Oh, we have an investor saying, great introduction and summary, Hunter, really well thought out and linked to the purpose. She's asking 2 questions. 1, what is the proposed distribution channel? And it's going to be online. That's the main channel that you're thinking of. And the second, who are your competitors and how do you differentiate or mitigate them?
Yeah, great question. So I think I heard the first one in just asking do you mind just saying that again, Leila? Just the first one.
How is going to be the distribution of the business, of the channel? Sorry, it's going to be online, it's going to be through retail.
Yeah, beautiful. So we definitely see the, coming back to what I shared before, about 16% is direct to consumer and online, and about 84% is through retail. We see that remaining relatively consistent. However, I know the reason that is particularly in the Australian market, retail is still the main opportunity for big volume of product to move. However, as we grow, it's increasingly important to build that customer loyalty for us. And that's where online comes in really handy. And that's where we can open up opportunities like subscriptions or refills, as the question earlier was saying, alluding to. As we grow, particularly direct to consumer, there's huge opportunity for us with platforms like eBay, which have massive volumes. So obviously looking very closely at that when the time is right. And then as we look into international markets as well, it depends on the country and the channel and the distribution partner we'll choose, but we definitely see pharmacy and grocery as huge opportunities, as well as continuing the journey with the more specialty retailers like Sephora. And then the second part of that question, Leila?
About your competition.
Competition, yeah, fantastic. So there's another brand, I'll just localize it into the men's space, and maybe just go back a couple of slides here. I would say the way I think about it is who are on the men's shelves. So if we look at it, we've got Sukin, which is a gender neutral product, so across both categories. We've got Swiss, which also is across both categories. Both of them have now started to move into men's. We really see our ability to be specifically hyper-focused as the male product is a real point of difference. And we're already seeing that with some of our customer reviews on our website, if anyone wants to check it out, where people are writing in saying, I'm just so glad I have a product for me, but also for the gifters. We see, like, we've got this beautiful one the other day of a mother writing in with a boy with a stuffed product saying, just for you as you're hitting puberty. So we're seeing it as a really beautiful gift being given to. But the real thing I think is what I'm excited to tackle is the links effect. I see there's this massive opportunity to knock those guys in a really kind of challenger brand way, to really be smart around how we take that market share. And then I will also say tradie. So tradie obviously appeals to a particular demographic. Their product ingredients are nowhere near as high quality as ours. They look a particular way on shelf that appeals to a particular target market, but they're at a price point that I say we are competitive as well. And again, for us, it's being a brand that is vibrant and fun, but also purpose-driven as well. So people know that when they buy stuff, it supports a boy to become a better man, is what I really see as our opportunity, as well as really exciting and fun brand activations where people get to experience the magic of stuff. And again, I use that example of Dove Real Beauty. So, women of all shapes and sizes really disrupted the women's personal care category years ago. I see a huge opportunity. I've got a few campaigns in the background around what we're excited to kick off to really establish our point of difference and continue that customer loyalty too.
Great, thank you. Daniel is saying, hi, Hunter, well done and congratulations. Love that a lot of the products are travel friendly. It's a good point. David is asking, in the long term, what percentage of the profits are going to be injected into the man cave versus the company itself, or paying dividends to investors?
Yeah, great question. This information will be in the investor documents that'll come your way, but so I won't speak to that specifically just now, but just know that information is coming. But we've made sure that there is a level of ring fencing so that Man Cave can ensure to have both funds injected into it in the short term, but also if there is some major financial event over the next few years, that Man Cave alongside investors will receive a kickback that can really fuel its growth as well.
Yeah. Hunter, you mentioned before, you obviously have big investors on the cap table. You could raise capital from other angel investors. You could get just high net worths or just VCs. Why are you doing crowdfunding?
Yeah, I think the answer lies in community. I think we have an opportunity here to, really work closely with people who both are connected to our purpose, who are already existing customers. And I see this as such an exciting way to activate brand ambassadors, brand advocates to go and tell the stories around what we're about. Similar to that question that got asked earlier around, do we really have the potential with like Thank You and Who Gives a Crap? Is there opportunity for a brand for men? That's what I see the white space opportunity for us. So that's what I'm excited by. And I've been, as I said at the beginning, incredibly humbled by the amount of interest that people have shown. And I just see this as a great time in many different areas of life and business. We're seeing the democratization of opportunities. And that's what I think is really exciting about this for us, is that our customers or our other sophisticated investors or people who want to, support the purpose can really get involved and kind of begin the journey of what we've just started.
Love them. Holly is asking, is there a possibility to expand outside of home, such as building showers, gym showers, and such?
Yes. Here's the short answer. I won't give too much away, but yes, I love the thinking, and yes, there is opportunity there.
Good. Nick is asking, does the staff own the IP and the recipes for the products and can change manufacturer if required?
Yes.
Good. So many people saying I love the brand. I'm friends of Ian and met them before. What is your biggest organizational challenge to continue to grow the brand, and how are you feeling about that?
How much sleep I'm getting? Am I allowed to answer that? No, it's the entrepreneurial dilemma of like, how do you sequence the growth in a sustainable way? I think we see so many zombie businesses out there that are just fueled by capital injection and not actually sustainable growth. And I'm really focused on, as an entrepreneur, I'm thinking about how do you build a great business that can get to profitability and get the recurring revenue so we can continue growing. So I think for me, it's the ensuring these are like treacherous times for some organizations to kind of get to this landing point. It's a quantum leap to become an Australian iconic brand. Like, it's great we have the distribution. Next order is, how do you become a fantastic Australian brand? And there is a jump that needs to be made with effective management of our cash flow, of our supply chain, of the brand advocates and ambassadors we get involved, as well as ensuring that we, obviously test and learning is a part of this, failing quickly is a part of this. So just ensuring we learn our lessons really quickly is something I'm really focused on. And then, I kind of joked about the sleep thing, but it's what I go to bed thinking about is what's the most intelligent way that we can become a challenger brand that takes market share off the big conglomerates who have just had brand loyalty for years and not done anything about it. So how do you earn the right for a customer to buy our product and continue to buy our product? That's what I really kind of think about. So I'd say that's really the challenge.
Yeah. Hunter, are we offering investors rewards?
Incentives, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, absolutely. That will be communicated after this. There'll be incentives that will be offered.
So again, if you haven't expressed interest, go ahead and do it now so that you can invest first than everyone else. I have one final question coming to the end of the webinar. Hunter, if I like the company, I want to get involved, how can I encourage more people to get involved or volunteer, or can I get involved myself? What can I do to make sure that this campaign is going to go well when you open the offer?
Oh, that's a great question, Leila. So obviously in a campaign, it's about remaining buoyant in public awareness. So for us, really, if there's anybody in your communities, your networks, that you think feel values aligned to this, or commercially aligned to this, like anything you can do to share actually makes a profound difference. Even if it's sharing on your social media, if it's following us on social media, if it's sharing some of the stories from Man Cave, which you can log on to the Man Cave social media so people can understand the opportunity. But the expression of interest for this campaign finishes on the 14th. The offer goes live on the 15th. We can still have people invest in the business then. And we really want to knock this out of the park. We really want this to be a really successful crowdfunding campaign so we can launch the second part of our journey with massive impact. So as far and wide we can get this message as possible makes a profound difference. So as well as obviously going into, if you want to jump on our site and trial our products, through websiteofstuff.com, which you can kind of see down there, or going to Woolies or Priceline. That's also where you can really help too.
Thank you. That's all for today. Thank you so much, Hunter and the team, to join us. And thanks everyone for joining this webinar during your lunchtime. Thank you again and goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.